The incident of Noah's drunkenness teaches us that if we trust ourselves, even after several victories in God and years of faithful service, the righteous can fall. Until now, the Bible has presented Noah as a righteous man, perfect in his generations and who walked with God. However, just as the Bible highlights the qualities of the great men and women of God, it also does not hide their errors and opportunities, unlike other cultures that present their heroes and patriarchs as perfect. Welcome, my dear listener. Today we present to you the untold story of Noah's drunkenness, and we will see the great consequences that this incident caused. Before delving into this topic, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell so that YouTube notifies you every time we publish a new video. Let's get started. After the flood is past, the ark was abandoned by all its occupants. The animals were scattered on the new land, and Noah's family is experiencing life in this new world. Now the human offspring will come from the three sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. However, in their first days on the new earth, this family will experience the first problems such as drunkenness and lack of respect for parents, showing us that even if a righteous man trusts himself, he can fall into sin and suffer its consequences. We will see how the actions of a father influence the future of his son for the worse, since due to Ham's sin, his son Canaan was cursed to be a servant of the offspring of Shem and Japheth. It is curious that chapter 9 of Genesis begins with God's blessing to Noah and his sons, and ends with a curse that falls on Noah's grandson. Let's read Genesis chapter 9 verse 18 onwards. And the sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. These three are the sons of Noah, and the whole earth was filled with them. Then Noah began to till the land, and planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and became drunk, and was uncovered in the midst of his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness, and told his two brothers who were outside. Then Shem and Japheth took the clothes, and put them on their own shoulders, and walking backwards, they covered their father's nakedness, having turned their faces, and so they did not see their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his drunkenness, and knew what his youngest son had done to him, and said, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants will be to his brothers." He further said, "Blessed by the Lord my God be Shem, and let Canaan be his servant." May God magnify Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years, and all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Dear ones, as we analyze verses 18 and 19, first of all, we see that we are presented with the three sons of Noah, from whom all the inhabitants of the earth are descended. But there is something curious here that we should not let go unnoticed. In verse 18, we are also presented with Canaan, who was the son of Ham. This is curious, because in the next chapter, it is where we can only see all the sons of Ham, and as we will see, Canaan was his fourth son. Let's read Genesis chapter 10, verse 6. The sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. As we see, Canaan was the fourth son of Ham, which is why Canaan was probably already born and had to be involved in something when his father Ham saw Noah's nakedness. For this reason, the curse fell on him. Let's continue reading verses 20 and 21. Then Noah began to till the land and planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and became drunk, and was uncovered in the midst of his tent. What is evident in these verses is that we are looking at a new world and a new beginning on a restored earth, but the old human nature was still present, and we see it now with Noah. Noah in this incident teaches us that if we trust ourselves, even after several victories in God and years of faithful service, the righteous can fall. Until now, the Bible has presented Noah as a righteous man, perfect in his generations, and who walked with God. However, just as the Bible highlights the qualities of the great men and women of God, it also does not hide their errors and opportunities, unlike other cultures that present their heroes and patriarchs as perfect. Apparently, after the flood, Noah began to till the land and planted a vineyard. The activity of tilling the land along with caring for livestock has its roots from the very beginnings of humanity. In fact, Cain and Abel dedicated themselves to it. Likewise, within agriculture, the cultivation of vines was and continues to be popular in the Middle East. Now, we do not know if Noah really knew the effects of fermenting grape juice too much and producing a wine capable of intoxicating, but we must not forget that Noah, before the flood, could see the evil of men. In Matthew chapter 24, verse 37, it says, "But as in the days of Noah, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day Noah entered the ark." In this verse we see that before Noah entered the ark, men were celebrating, and at a party there is always wine. Noah could perhaps see all the wickedness and drunkenness of men. Now, the truth is that Noah also drank wine and became so drunk that he ended up lying somewhere visible and completely naked. The Bible warns that the wise man must stay away from drunkenness. Let's read Proverbs chapter 20, verse 1. "Wine is a mocker, strong drink is a riot, and anyone who errs because of them is not wise." Here we see Noah being mocked and agitated by the wine, which led him to a state of drunkenness where he lost the use of his faculties. His body was left uncovered in the middle of his tent, and one of his sons, Ham, saw him in that so embarrassing state. Let's see what the biblical story says. "And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brothers who were outside. Then Shem and Japheth took the clothes and put them on their own shoulders, and walking backwards they covered their father's nakedness, having turned their faces, and so they did not see their father's nakedness." Many believe that Ham's sin was having gone to tell his two brothers that their father was lying naked in the middle of his tent, instead of looking for a way to take care of his honor, and in fact, some believe that his attitude, when he told his brothers what he had seen, it had been in a mocking tone. Contrary to the reaction of their brother Ham, Shem and Japheth looked for a way to protect their father's honor, covering his nakedness and not seeing him naked. From the contrast that exists between Ham's attitude and that of Shem and Japheth regarding their father's nakedness, we can deduce that his sin was not honoring his father. In the Ten Commandments, we are exhorted to honor our parents with the promise of lengthening our days on this earth. The same law condemned to death those rebellious children who did not obey their parents. Likewise, those children who dared to curse their parents had to die according to the law. Therefore, the sin of dishonoring parents is serious before God, and today, he who sins in this way shortens his days on this earth. Let's continue with the biblical story. "And Noah awoke from his drunkenness and knew what his youngest son had done to him, and said, 'Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants will be to his brothers.' He further said, 'Blessed by the Lord, my God be Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. May God magnify Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant.'" Here we find some very controversial verses, and this lies in the fact that Canaan, Ham's son, was cursed for his father's sin. Trying to understand why the son is cursed for his father's sin is a challenge for many. However, we can seek with the help of the Holy Spirit some answers that will lead us to answer them. First of all, we have to understand that Canaan had already been born and was probably present in the events that happened, as we have already mentioned before. Canaan was the fourth son of Ham. Now, why do we believe that Canaan had already been born and was present in the events? Let us remember that Noah is the one who made the curse, "Cursed be Canaan." For Noah to do this curse with a specific name, Canaan had to be present, and he also had to be involved in the events. Since Noah could not curse a person who had not yet been born, much less without knowing what his name was, and it would also be somewhat unfair to curse someone who had nothing to do with what happened. Now, according to certain opinions, it was Canaan who saw Noah naked and went to tell his father Ham. For this reason, Noah cursed Canaan. This may be true, but there is no doubt that Canaan was involved in what happened. Now the question is, why didn't Noah also curse Ham? According to biblical scholars, Noah did not curse Ham himself, but only cursed Ham's son, since God had already blessed Noah and his children. Let's read Genesis chapter 9, verse 1. God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth." In this verse, we see that Ham had the blessing of God. Therefore, the curse of a human being would have no effect. Now we must consider something important. Noah only cursed Canaan. Some racists mistakenly try to apply to black people the curse that Noah placed on Canaan. But if we see, no descendant of the black race came from Canaan, but he was the ancestor of the various Canaanite tribes of Palestine, while the people of the black race are descendants of Cush, who was the brother of Canaan. Another very important detail that we must analyze is that the words of a father have enormous power over the future of their children. Let us notice the words of Noah. He said further, "Blessed by the Lord my God be Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. May God magnify Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant." These words that Noah spoke about his children would mark the future of all human history. We see the preeminence that Shem has in blessing. The people of Israel are descendants of Shem. Israel became the bearer of the presence of the Eternal and the receiver and transmitter of the sacred scriptures. The descendants of Japheth have been the most widespread in the land. Ham, the father of the dark-skinned, did not receive any blessing. However, he had already been blessed by God. The curse did not fall on him, but on his son Canaan. The descendants of Canaan became nations whose sin so filled God that he established a time in which they would be judged and destroyed through the descendants of Abraham, to whom he would give their lands. Therefore, when Noah cursed Canaan, he was prophesying the future that awaited the nations that descended from him and that practiced terrible sins that God condemned. Surely the example of his father Ham influenced the character and future practices of Canaan, and in general, his descendants, who would form nations in the future. The example of parents towards their children is decisive. Their habits and customs influence them. The training and direction that can be instilled in them from a young age is decisive for the path they will take in the future. In Proverbs chapter 20, verse 6, it says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." Dear ones, we have to consider something very important. Why did God leave us this detailed account of Noah's sin? If man had written the book of Genesis, he would have done one of two things. He would have hidden Noah's sin, not mentioning it at all to make him a hero, or else he would have turned this sin into something much more sordid than it really was. But God recorded it this way, just as it really happened, because he had a purpose in doing so. First of all, when Moses wrote this narrative, the people of Israel were traveling towards the land of Canaan. It was stimulating for them to have information about God's judgment on the people of Canaan. And secondly, so that the incident of Noah's sin may be recorded. In his letter to the Romans, chapter 15, verse 4, the Apostle Paul wrote, "For the things that were written before were written for our teaching, so that through patience and the comfort of the Scriptures, we might have hope." It is clear that these events were recorded so that we would know something about the weakness of human physical nature. In the Gospel account according to Mark chapter 14, verse 38, we see that the Lord Jesus Christ himself, when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, living in anticipation of the sufferings that awaited him on the cross, he said to the disciples who accompanied him, and who, due to the sadness that overcame them, were fainting with sleep, "Watch and pray that you do not enter into temptation. The spirit is ready, but the flesh is weak." Now, as for Noah, of course, he did not lose his relationship with God. The story ends with the announcements of blessing and punishment that he himself pronounces on behalf of God, for whom he lived and whom he served. It is therefore clear that, with our physical nature affected by sin and trying to accumulate works and merits of our own, we could not be accepted by God unless we place our faith in Jesus Christ. Thus, God has left us this story with incidents that expose human failure, so that we take into account the weakness of our physical nature. Furthermore, we have here a lesson on how, using the resources of God's power to control our own nature, we can live on this earth a life of fulfillment, a life of meaning, a life worth living. After the drunken incident, we are not told more about Noah's life. Apparently, it was a hard lesson for Noah that he had to learn from, but with all that, he was a God-fearing man, full of faith, who was chosen to continue through his descendants the history of humanity on this earth. After the flood, Noah had the opportunity to live 350 more years and enjoy the new world that the Lord had given them. In total, Noah lived 950 years and died, being the last man who lived with great longevity on this earth. From here on, as we will see, the years of man's life were shortened. And so we come to the end of this video. We hope that this biblical teaching makes you reflect. Thank you for being part of our channel. God bless you greatly. From me, that's all for today. And with me, it will be until the next video.